Hi friends, welcome back to Shelby in the Book Club. I'm Shelby Bonet. It is almost Black History Month. When you see this, we are a few days away from Black History Month, so I figure it is about time that I do my February TBR, and I'm super excited. Also, I wanted to remind you guys that Jess from Literature Noir Book Club and I are doing Bookish Bingo over on Instagram again, so some of these books will work for some of the topics on the bingo card. So if you would like to hear more, here you go. So let's talk about Bookish Bingo. This is the second year that Jess and I have done Bookish Bingo. I will put the board up on the card on the screen here. Board up on the card. I could talk. I will put the board up on the screen here for you guys to see. We do this to kind of help guide you guys' TBR for the month of February. I think a lot of people get stuck in the classics every year, which is not a bad thing, but there are so many new books and there are so many different ways that you can kind of Google these things. So the Bookish Bingo board is here to help you. If you do make bingo, there is an opportunity for you guys to win some things. We will be picking 3 winners, I believe, and you'll be getting some books, some Bookish merch, and a bunch of other things. So if you want to join, make sure you head over to my Instagram, Shelby in the Bookstore, and Jess's Instagram, Lit Noir Club, I believe it is. I'll put both on the screen, and follow us so that you can participate as of February 1st. Now, let's get into these books for my TBR. First up, we have Decent People by Deshaun Charles Winslow. This is the book club pick, not only for Shelby in the book club, but for Jessica's book club as well. We are joining book clubs and we are going to do a book club meeting together. So this says, in the still segregated town of West Mills, North Carolina in 1976, Marion, Marva, and Lazarus Harmon, 3 enigmatic, I'm saying that word wrong, siblings are found shot to death in their home. The people of West Mills on both sides of the canal that serves as the town's color line are in a frenzy. That's all I'm going to tell y'all. This sounds so good. I love a good mystery. I love this author actually. So I read his book in West Mills last month, which you guys should have seen in one of my vlogs. And it was so good. I loved the characters. It was a quick read too. It's not a super long book, just like this one isn't super long, but it was like funny, it was emotional, it was really good. So I'm curious to see how this one stands up since I read in West Mills. The rest of these are in no particular order. I guess one thing that I should have also stated was I had a really good reading month in January, and I will talk more about it in my wrap-up video, but just to kind of give you guys an idea of how I did that, I had a list of books. I read some of them. Other books kind of came in as I like bought things, and I had no issue DNFing books. So if I started reading it and I wasn't really vibing with it, I picked up something else. I plan to do that again this month. If I don't read everything, it is okay. Also, if you guys want to keep up with what I am reading and when I'm reading things, follow me on Instagram because I post when I'm changing books, and follow me on the Storygraph or Goodreads or both. I'm leaning more towards Storygraph just because I'm liking it a little bit more, and I like posting reviews on there a little bit more than I do on Goodreads, but I do use Goodreads still. But Instagram is really where you should be following me if you want to keep track of like, oh, when is she reading this and how does she like that, whatever, because I've been posting mini book reviews as well, so that's important. Anyway, the rest of these are in no particular order. Next up, I have The Record Keeper by Agnes Gomillion. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but this says, after World War III, Earth is in ruins and the final armies have come to a reluctant truce. Everyone must obey the law in every way or risk shattering the fragile peace and endangering the entire human race. Erika Cobain is on the threshold of taking her place of privilege as the member of the Congo elite after 10 grueling years of training. But everything changes when a new student arrives speaking dangerous words of treason. What does peace matter if innocent lives are lost to maintain it? I was looking for a new fantasy, and I came across this when I did some Googles. So this could count towards the fantasy or sci-fi read by Black author. I am very curious to read this. I think it's a duology, maybe it's a trilogy, but I know there's another book to this as well. So if I enjoy this, I plan to get the second one. Next up, that'll fit in the same category for Bookish Bingo, is Fledging by Octavia Butler. I started this, as you guys can see, there's a bookmark there, and y'all know I never use a real bookmark. Oh, I lied, it's not a bookmark, it is a tag off of some clothes. Okay, this one, the Fledging, is about a vampire that has amnesia. Her name is Shuri, and she is a 53-year-old vampire with a ravenous hunger for blood, the lost child of an ancient species of near mortals who live in a dark symbiosis, I think that's how you say that, with humanity. I started this but had to read something else. I'm looking forward to this because I like vampires. There's a TikTok going around that says you probably like vampires because you want somebody to love you or need you so bad that like they need your life source for sustenance, and I felt attacked. Okay, next up we have The Sweetness of Water. So I got this over the weekend. Mom and I went to visit a yarn store here in New Jersey, and there was a bookstore down the street and the yarn store wasn't open, so we went in the bookstore, and the guy was so nice. The bookstore is called Here's the Story. It's in Union, New Jersey. The owner was so nice. So mom and I both were like, we need to get something to support this man, because he was just so sweet. I've wanted to read The Sweetness of Water for a long time. This tells a story in the waning days of the Civil War in rural Georgia of brothers Prentice and Landry, freed by the Emancipation Proclamation, seek refuge on the homestead of George Walker and his wife Isabel. The Walkers, racked by the loss of their only son into the war, hire the brothers to work their farm, hoping through an unexpected friendship to stanch their grief, while Prentice and Landry aim to save money for their journey north. I've heard decent things about this book. I have tried to read it before, and it was a bit boring to me. But, and this is why I find it okay to DNF books. You can always go back. What was boring to me a month ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, could be intriguing to me today. So I'm giving it a second chance. Like I said before, I might not like it and I could just put it down and whatever. Next on the list, Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. We all know that Jesmyn Ward is one of my favorite authors. I think she is a phenomenal writer. One of my favorite things about her is that I feel like her memoir, The Man We Reaped, and her fiction work, they all kind of meld together like this series, which I think is really cool. I started this and I never finished it. Why? Because it is a sad book, and I think this is technically supposed to be horror because there's a bit of like a ghost or something or another in this. And I stopped reading it because I think I was having a depressive bit at the time, and I try to be really picky about what I'm reading when my mental health is not at its best. So I put it down, not because it was bad, but because my mental health was not where it was supposed to be. So this is about, oh, here it goes, part ghost story, part road novel. This historic National Book Award Winter is a dazzling journey through Mississippi's past and present and an epic tale of hope and survival, following a family making a trip from their Gulf Coast town in Mississippi from their Gulf Coast town to the Mississippi State Penitentiary. I'm very much looking forward to reading this again. I wanted to read this in January, but I just couldn't fit it in with everything else that I was reading. So that's on the list. Next, we have Invisible Boy. This is by Harrison Mooney. It is a memoir of self-discovery. So you guys know that one of my goals for the year of 2023 is to read 23 nonfiction books, because I just want to read more nonfiction, and not just memoirs, but all sorts of nonfiction. So this checks off that thing. But one of the Bookish Bingo squares is to read a book with a black child on the cover, and here is a black boy on the cover of this memoir. I picked this up from a local bookstore here in New Jersey called the Watch Young Booksellers. The cover intrigues me. Y'all know how I feel about covers with black people on it, whether it be black women, black men, black children. I'm gonna buy it. So it says an adopted black boy educated at home and at big tent revivals, Harrison Mooney was raised amid a swirl of conflicting and confusing messages and beliefs, desperate to belong and to be visible to those around him. But before ultimately finding his own path, Harrison first had to come to understand the forces at work in his life were not supernatural, but the same systematic dynamics that have brutalized Black Americans for generations. Meeting his birth mother for the first time in a moving reunion, he learned that she waited 25 years for a chance to tell her son the truth. She wanted to keep him. It was only then that Harrison forged a new connection with himself. Harrison Mooney's moving, evocative storytelling, and infused with his wry wit, brings us into a voice deeply personal tale of identity. This sounds so interesting. I'm also always into reading about Black men in their lives. I read Heavy by, if I remember, I'll put the book on the screen, but I remember reading Heavy, and it was one of those things where it made me feel like, what can I do to make Black men in particular feel safe enough to be vulnerable with me on a regular basis? How can I help them? Because they live a life that does not leave much room for error for them. They have to be perfect. They have to be masculine. They can't be emotional. They can't cry, when really they experience the same kind of traumas we do. They just don't have a safe space to go about healing themselves. So it was like reading that made me crave more stories from Black men. Like, what was y'all's life really like? So I'm looking forward to reading this. Okay, next we have a romance novel. Not only is Black History Month in February, but so is Valentine's Day, and one of the Bookish Bingo squares is to read a Black romance. Y'all know I don't like romance. I think it is cheesy. I think it is unrealistic. And the only ones that I've thoroughly enjoyed are by Tia Williams. And I think the things that I like about the Tia Williams, the ones that I've read by her, which are 7 Days in June and The Perfect Find, is that they seem realistic to me. They aren't those gushy, oh, I went into a coffee shop and we bumped into each other and he happened to be a millionaire and now he's the love of my life and we have 8 children and we live happily ever. Like, girl, shut up. I don't like it. I've got Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I know y'all like to tussle behind this book. The girls love them some Kennedy Ryan. I have seen a few people say that if you like 7 Days in June, you will love Before I Let Go. Well, if you love 7 Days in June, you'll love Before I Let Go. And I think the common denominator here is a second chance romance. I think I like second chance romances. I'm hoping I like this, because every Black woman down to the TikTok has said that this book is phenomenal. And I want to believe them. I do. So I'm going to give it a try. I can't make no promises. But this I know is about Yasmin and Josiah Wade, who were married, got divorced, but they like are co-parenting and running a business together. And you know, I don't know, I think you know, he smelled good and he be all in the lady face. I don't know, but it's a second chance romance. And I'm looking forward to it, but I'm a little scared because, like I said, I don't really get down with romance like that. I'd be annoyed. I'd be very annoyed. But they said it was good. They said it was good. They said it was good. So we'll see. Next, can y'all hear Gunner? He is having a time. Baby, are you okay? Let me mind my business before he be all up in the video again, and then I'm gonna be mad. Next, we have In the Upper Country by Kai Thomas. Y'all don't understand how I have been like trying to ignore this book on my desk and not read it right now because I want to read this so bad. I love historical fiction. I specifically love historical fiction about Black people. Excuse me. I do think there was a time in history where one historical fiction or one slave narrative, like you could pick up 3 of them and they all sounded the same. I will say that. What I'm enjoying about these new historical fictions that I've been reading is that they tell different stories and they make our people seem human. That is what I like. And I think that's what is missing from historical nonfiction for me, is that it's very like telling the history and not making these people seem human, but just kind of like melding a story together. Why I was so intrigued by this one is because it talks about Canada, which is something that we don't often talk about. Like, I feel like they say, oh, the slaves went north and it stopped at like New York. It's a whole lot of other north that they could have went. So this one says, the fate of 2 unforgettable women, one beginning a journey of reckoning and self-discovery, the other completing her last vital act, intertwine in this powerful novel set at the terminus of the Underground Railroad. I guess I learned a lot of new words today that I need to look up. Okay. In the 1800s, Dunmore, a Canadian town settled by people fleeing enslavement in the American South. Young Lucinda Martin works for a crusading Black journalist. Yes, okay. One night, a slave hunter is shot by an old woman who recently arrived. When the old woman refuses to flee, Lucinda is tasked with gathering testimony before she is condemned for the crime. And then they build a relationship from there, I'm supposing, so on and so forth. I can't wait to read this book. It probably will be the first thing that I read in February because it is on my spirit real bad. Yes, it is. This whole little stack of books is gonna fall. Next, this one fits for Bookish Bingo because you read a book with a color in the title, and this is Black Cloud Rising by David Wright Filade. This is about the war. Which one, you ask? So it says, by the fall of 1863, Union forces had taken control of Tidewater, Virginia, and established a toehold in eastern North Carolina. Don't you come in here and rile him up, because you know he gonna come after you. A toehold in eastern North Carolina, including along the Outer Banks. Thousands of freed slaves and runaways flooded the Union lines, but Confederate irregulars still roamed the region. In December, the newly formed African Brigade, a unit of these former slaves led by General Edward Augustus Wild. There are just parts of history that I feel like we don't talk about a lot outside of historical nonfiction, and this just sounded really interesting to me. It also talks about parts of Virginia that my daddy and them's family are from. Quick side note, I remember they took me there one time and I thought that I was gonna go outside at night to get something out of the car, and I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, so I called my mother and I asked her to expeditiously come and get me. It was industrially dark outside, and I ain't with that. I was like, y'all don't have no street lights, a flashlight, nothing. It was dark. Next, this is Moonrise over New Jessup. This is also something that I wanted to read in January. It just did not make the cut because so many other things to read. So I'm adding it high up on my priorities in February. This one is about it's about a town, like an all-black town, but it says in 1957, and after leaving the only home she has ever known, Alice Young steps off the bus into an all-black New Jessup, where residents have largely rejected integration as the means for black social advancement. And then it says, based on the history of the many black towns and settlements established across the country. So it said, instead they seek to maintain and fortify the community they cherish on their side of the woods. In this place, Alice falls in love with Raymond Campbell, whose clandestine organizing activities challenge New Jessup's long-standing status quo. I think this is going to be really good. This is one of these books that has been haunting me. Like, every time that I went in a bookstore in January, I saw this book, I looked at it, and I was just like, I don't know. And then I was like dreaming about it. So I think I'm gonna end up really loving this book. So I'm very curious to see what this one is about and how it goes. And then last but certainly not least, I have The Three Mothers. How the Mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin Shaped a Nation. This is a nonfiction. I've heard amazing things about this book. And it feels like it's probably going to be something that I need to listen to so that I can get the full gist of it. But it says a groundbreaking and essential celebration of the role black women and black mothers in particular have played in American history. The Three Mothers tells the story of the women who raised and shaped three of America's most pivotal heroes, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin. I've heard good things about it. Can't wait to read it. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you plan to read for Black History Month. I hope you guys know that you should be reading black authors all year round. Black History Month is not the only time when we support black authors, black businesses, black people, black content creators, so on and so forth. You should be doing this year round, which is why I promote that you guys should be reading diversely. We all should be reading diversely. But let me know down below, what are your plans for Black History Month? What do you plan to read? And yeah, if no one's told you today, I love you. Bye, guys.